Hi, it's Phil Walker, and have I got a good one for you today. We've talked about various abuses under the AMA guides. Sleep dysfunction, sexual dysfunction, but now let me tell you a real doozy. It's called rating by analogy. And here's how it works. A doctor will evaluate a patient and he will say, well, this patient has a very unusual condition and it's not actually rated in the AMA guides. So I'm going to rate by analogy. And what he will then do is he will liken it to some other condition and then give a rating for that condition. Let me give you a whopper of an example that I saw recently. A woman came in, claimed to the doctor that she had pain in both of her arms. The doctor said, well, maybe she has carpal tunnel syndrome. So he did what you do to determine if someone has carpal tunnel syndrome. He did an EMG test, and it turned out the EMG came out normal and did not support any diagnosis of carpal tunnel. Also, her complaints of pain were all through her arms, not in any known nerve distribution. So you're going to love what he said. He said, well, she doesn't have carpal tunnel syndrome. And you know what this is like? She's got a whole bunch of pain, and it's like complex regional pain syndrome. And therefore, I'm going to rate it like you would that. And he gave the woman a rating that equaled the amputation of both arms, because he said she couldn't use the arms. Now, of course, he didn't actually rate it under complex regional pain syndrome because she didn't have the 8 findings that were necessary to make that diagnosis. How do you deal with this? You write the doctor, you ask him what the diagnosis is, you turn to the section of the AMA guides where that diagnosis appears, such as complex regional pain syndrome, and you make him do the rating correctly. Where do the doctors get this? Hold, I have to find the page. This comes, take out your AMA guides. This comes from page 11, where the quote says the following. Given the range, evolution, and discovery of new medical conditions, the guides cannot provide an impairment rating for all impairments. Also, since some medical syndromes are poorly understood and are manifested only by subjective complaints, impairment ratings are not provided for these conditions. The guides nevertheless provides a framework for evaluating new or complex conditions. Most adult conditions with measurable impairments can be evaluated under the guides. In situations where impairment ratings are not provided, the guide suggests that physicians use clinical judgment comparing measurable impairment from an unlisted condition to measurable impairment from a listed condition. Now, that's a lot of gobbledygook, but what does it mean? If the condition is not rated in the guides, the doctor should compare it to something similar and rate it exactly the way that that condition is rated. The best example of this is disc replacement procedures. When the guides were written, those didn't exist. And so when they came into existence, the editors of the guides said they should be rated just like a one-level fusion because they do exactly the same thing in the spine. That's a classic example of rating by analogy. But you cannot rate by analogy when the condition the patient has is already rated in the guides. And you've got to follow the rating that is there. And if you're looking for these ratings, all you need to do is check out my book, The AMA Guides Made Simple, which you can find at www.askphilwalker.com. And remember, if you've got any questions about California Workers' Comp or the AMA Guides, you know where to reach me. Phil at askphilwalker.com or 877-774-5550. Because remember, anytime you got a question, all you need to do is just ask Phil Walker.